All right, Steve, you're on. John, go ahead.
Hey, John Salter, it's Steve Jewin from MMA Mania. It's good to talk to you again. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm excellent, and I'm really excited about this main event you've got at Bellator 210. But to tell that story, I think we have to go back to Bellator 205 because we talked before that fight about how highly anticipated and long awaited that match was with Rafael Lovato. It was back and forth all the way through, and then in the third round, things suddenly took a turn. So why don't you talk us through what happened in the third round of that fight?
Well, I was feeling good going into that third round. I felt like I was ahead, and he came out. He threw a couple of flying knees and jumping elbows at me, and then he took a shot on me. And in my mind, I was thinking, it'd probably be a lot less dangerous if I just put him on his back again. I had him on his butt most of the second round, and so I pushed him up against the cage. I dropped my level to go put him on his butt, and I just dropped too far, and he's a strong guy. He wasn't letting me come back up. And I think rather than bailing on it, I just in my mind thinking, okay, I can still finish. I can finish this. I just got to keep pushing forward. And he's just the kind of guy you can't recover on. He ended up putting me on my back, and he's such a good guard passer. As soon as he stepped over my leg, he hit me with a good shot. And I always talk about how you hit a black belt and they start dropping belt levels, and I've never really been a firm believer of that until that night, because he hit me with that first shot and I just gave my back up. And I'm better than that. I shouldn't have made that decision, but he got such good pressure on top, and he's the kind of guy, like I said, you can't make a mistake with. He's not going to let you get away with it, and that's what happened.
Well, he capitalized on that situation and made the most of it, but you're doing the exact same by stepping in for Melvin Manouf here. You're capitalizing on this situation.
Yeah, that's right. That was my only fight this year so far because of an eye surgery I had to have. So I definitely wanted to get back in the cage this year, get something else going, and get on the winning side as well. So when this opportunity presented itself, I jumped at it right away.
Do you see it then as a little bit of a redemption for that loss after such a long year where you didn't get to fight, and having a fight that was postponed and then finally getting it and not having it go your way?
Yeah, I think in a way, but at the same time, I've got to separate this from that scenario, and just make this its own individual fight. Each fight is separate and important on its own. So while it's easy to say that, at the same time, I can't keep that in my mind while I'm preparing for this fight, because it's a completely different fight.
Right. You don't need that distraction in the back of your head. And arguably, Chidi Njokuani would be just as motivated by the same factors, because he's also had a year where he's been waiting a long time for a fight, and now he's finally getting his time.
Yeah, he's been off for, I guess, a year now. So I know he's ready to get back in there, and he's going to have a lot of drive to step in and try and get a win too. So, both of us, I think, are going to be as motivated as we've ever been.
Now, previously, when he was fighting at welterweight, he would have some problems getting on the scale, making weight for fights. There were a lot of catchweight fights that were made at the last minute, but he seemed okay coming in at 185 for his fight last December. So, are you worried at all about him making the weight?
No, I think that's going to be an easy shot for him. We normally in wrestling kind of look at when somebody moves up in weight as, well, they're not working as hard as they used to, and they're not keeping their weight down. But I think it's a different scenario with him. I think he was just too big for 170. So I think he's probably found the right weight for him, and I don't think it's a work ethic issue. So I expect him to come in on weight, and I hadn't really given that a whole lot of thought.
You mentioned the work ethic, and I think he proved that by going 3 rounds with Saki Kato, one of the hardest strikers in the middleweight division. He was working hard in that fight.
Yeah, he did a very good job of keeping Kato off of him. Like you said, Kato's got a lot of power. I don't know that he's the most technical striker, but he's one of those guys that if he touches you, he's going to hurt you. And, you think him being the bigger guy, being the natural 185er, and, Chidi didn't have any trouble keeping him off of him, used that push kick a lot to keep him back. And I think, he just showed that he belongs in this division.
Well, Chidi's also got some of that touch you and hurt you kind of power because we've seen some very sneaky knockout blows from him, ones that you didn't even catch unless you saw the replay from a different angle. So you've got to know that he's coming in there with some tough striking of his own.
Yeah, he's a very good striker. He's long. He's very accurate. And he does a good job of keeping you out at the end of his range and hitting you out there. But I think the issue for him is going to be when we get in and we're throwing, I'm going to have more power than him. I think I'm the bigger, stronger guy, and I think that's going to, he might hit me twice and I hit him once, but I think my one shot's going to hurt him.
Like you said before about how people drop levels when they get hit, he's going to get hit with that, and if he's a black belt, he's going to go down to a brown or a blue because then you'll take him down and things will go bad.
Yeah, I think, I'm not going out there with hey, I got to take him down and put him on his back like, a lot of people end up, and you start getting desperate and get in trouble. But when I get on top, it's going to be a rough night for him.
Indeed. We've seen that in so many of your fights in the past. And with that said, I also think there's something interesting about this fight that Njokuani comes from a fighting family. His older brother Anthony was well known in UFC, so you're dealing with a lot of experience both in the fighter you're facing and in his camp.
He's been doing this for a long time, from a young age, and I've been, in some form of combat sports most of my life. So I think, you're seeing two guys that have been doing this most of their life. So we should be bringing the best out of each other.
Absolutely. And two guys, it feels kind of like karma for this fight to be coming together.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's one of the things, when he came up to 185, I had a feeling we were eventually going to fight.
Well, he said the same thing, actually. He said he figured it was a matter of time before he came across you or Lovato or both of you.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Our 185-pound division is growing and getting a lot tougher with everybody coming over and him jumping up. And but still, when you're in a division and you're one of the top guys, you look at the other top guys, it's eventually going to happen.
Absolutely. Speaking of those top guys, we just found out this week that Lovato is getting that title shot on January 26th against Gegard Mousasi. Does that burn a little bit, knowing that was the fight where you could have been the number one contender, where it could have been you?
Obviously, that's a little bit of frustration, but Lovato deserves it. He has showed that he can beat all different types of fighters. He hasn't lost a fight yet, and he's fought some tough guys, so I think he deserves it, and I'm happy for him that he's getting that shot, and wish him the best in it.
And conversely, we can look at it as a feather in your cap that he was there and he was beating those guys and he was undefeated, but it wasn't until he beat you that he finally proved it.
Yeah, I think, I like to think I gave him his hardest fight he's had, and I pushed him the hardest, and I put him in the worst position. But, at the end of the day, he came through everything I threw at him, and he was able to finish.
So let's say things go the way you want them to with Chidi Njokuani here, and then things go well for him on January 26th at the Forum. Do you see a rematch between the two of you down the line?
I think that could be a good, something good for everybody. I mean, I think we both put on a good show. I think people enjoyed the fight, and I think we can do it again. And hopefully I can come out on top the next time.
Yeah, and 5 rounds would add an extra dynamic to the fight because you'd both have even more in the tank coming into that fight.
Exactly. That really changes things a lot. It changes the pace, and it gives, just more excitement later on. With
this fight being in Thackerville, what are your thoughts on going back there and putting on another show in Oklahoma?
I think the fans there the first time were great. They were really excited about everything. I've been there twice. I fought once and then cornered people another time. And, it's great fans there. It's a good environment. So I'm excited to get out there and get a win again out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, they gave you a great reaction when you submitted Kendall Grove. And I think that was another one of those fights where people who hadn't been paying attention kind of had their heads turned around. They were like, wait a minute, he just beat a guy who won the Ultimate Fighter and who's a black belt in jiu-jitsu in his own right. So, wow.
Yeah, I think, I had even a couple of guys in Bellator and one of the rest say, we were really interested in that fight. We didn't think it would go that way. That's kind of what I expected. I knew he's going to be a tough guy, and I figured he might be able to get up a couple times, but I knew eventually I was going to be able to, look to sink a choke in on him.
Do you ever find when you have a match like that in the MMA rules where a guy is really well known for jiu-jitsu that later on after the fight's over, they're like, can we run this one back somewhere else where I get another chance under jiu-jitsu rules?
I've never had anybody look for that yet, but I see that coming more in the future as, as more jiu-jitsu guys are getting into the sport for sure.
Absolutely. With events like Quartet, there's plenty of opportunities for people to go out there and have a submission-only tournament match.
Yeah, and that I think jiu-jitsu is getting a lot more exciting too with things like exactly that. Jiu-jitsu is definitely growing. There's getting to be more opportunities to show off your skills in front of a large amount of people. So I think there's going to be more crossover back and forth in the future.
Yeah, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Metamoris as well. They're one of the ones that's been doing it for more than a little bit, longer than Quartet, and I've always wanted to go attend a Metamoris show.
Yeah, they have a lot of good matches there and a lot of tough guys on the cards.
Have you had any inclination of entering into a Metamoris and trying it out for yourself?
I've talked to Eddie Bravo in the past about doing an EBI. And, he said he'd love to have me on, but, it's hard sometimes to get stuff lined up because at the end of the day, I'm a fighter and that's where I make my living. So it's hard for me to take a chance on missing a fight to be in an EBI or something like that. But it's something that, I definitely want to make sure I'm competing more in jiu-jitsu than I have in the past couple of years.
Well, that's understandable because you've got those skills that pay the bills. So on the one hand, fighting, that's where you're making your money, like you said. But at the same time, that itch to scratch it, that passion you have for jiu-jitsu, knowing how good you are at it, it's always going to be there.
Yeah, it's, like I said, it's a lot of fun doing jiu-jitsu. I'm not getting punched at the end of the day. You can do it longer and not take the same kind of damage. And, it still gets that competitive edge working.
Bellator 210, WinStar World Casino, Thackerville. The main event is going to be Salter and Njokuani. How do you feel about the fact that this is the main event of the show?
I'm excited about this. First time I've been a main event in Bellator. I've been a main event in other organizations, and it's always worked out well for me. I always enjoy it, so I'm excited to do it for Bellator.
And we're excited to see it. It's going to be a fantastic fight between two hungry middleweights looking to prove a point in the main event. And one of them might be facing either Gegard Mousasi or Rafael Lovato in the future. So lots of interesting possibilities.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be a good fight. I think people tune in and really see two guys go at it. So we'll make sure to put on a good show.
I know you will, John. You always do. And hey, before you go, let's get some plugs in. I always like to give you that time right here at the end.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Check out the shorts I'll be wearing. They're going to be Phalanx Jiu-Jitsu's new shorts. We got Oak Grove Technologies, always one of my main sponsors. I always appreciate them. Green Lean Clean, helping me stay healthy, especially through this holiday season. Natural Healthy Concepts. With their supplements have really helped me a lot as well.
All right. Well, speaking of the holiday season, I want to wish all the best to you and yours for Thanksgiving, and hopefully you won't eat too much turkey and pie, and you'll be ready to go for Bellator 210.
Well, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving yourself.
I sure will. And thank you, Dan, and happy Thanksgiving to you as well.
Thanks, Steve.
You bet.
Likewise.
Bye-bye.